Lighting your builds in Minecraft is almost as important as the build itself, because if you finish your build and use the wrong type of lighting, you could ruin all the work you've done. So today I'm going to show you how to properly light your builds like a pro. First up, let's discuss light levels. Each light block gives off a different amount of light, from 1 to 15, and each one has its own purpose. For example, at this cozy cottage, these lights give off just enough light to highlight parts of the build, but don't light up every nook and cranny, which would ruin the atmosphere. And for this build, it needs lots of light. Otherwise, all the planning you went through in building all the little details will just go to waste, because you can't see any of it without strong lights. Here are all the different light blocks in Minecraft, and what light level they give off, so you can pick the right one for your build. Now, let's talk cold versus warm lighting. The type of lighting each light source gives off can affect the vibe of your build. These ones here give off what is called a cold light, and they work well in icy builds or more high-tech builds, like a science laboratory. Now, warm lights, on the other hand, make you feel safe and cozy like a campfire, but can also be quite spooky when used in the right amount, like sparse torches in a cave system. Now, let's take a quick break and look at some light uses for these different build styles here. First up, let's go into a forest. As we enter this forest here, we're going to come across a bunch of different lighting sources. First up is glow lichen, a low light level block, but it adds that kind of creepy moss fungus vibe, but also adds a little bit of lighting to your build. Next up is the firefly bush. This one adds a little bit of lighting, but also adds these cool lighting effects in the form of the fireflies. Next up is a really bright one, the glowberry. This one is a natural looking vegetation where you can choose which one has a light depending on which one you bone meal, and adds a lot of light but keeps that natural foliage vibe. Now next up is this cool spore blossom with a candle on top. It adds a bit of lighting, but also a fantasy vibe with the floating flower. Now you can see up in these trees, you have a bit of shroom light hidden in the foliage. This is good if you want to hide a little bit of light in your build. And finally, we have this rock in the middle of this pond with the light hidden under a moss carpet. It adds a lot of light, but doesn't mess with the natural vibe of the area. Now let's take a look at some lighting techniques for a road or a path. Our first one is a simple lamppost. You can use fences, walls, and stairs, along with a chain and a lantern. You can change out all the block types for this for a bunch of different variations. On this cool street here, you have a couple different types of lighting sources. We have these posts using a bit of the blue lighting because it works well with the darker of the deep slate, as well as some hidden lighting behind these iron bars. You can see just a little bit of the block back there, hide a bit of light, but add a little bit of life, making these seem like windows into some sort of house. Now, lighting interiors can be a lot of fun as well, using different lanterns, candles. You can even hide a bit of lighting under a carpet. You can also use a smoker or furnace to keep it running at all times, either using a debug stick in creative mode or constantly feeding it fuel in a survival world. But be careful when you're lighting indoors, because there's a lot less space. You don't want to overcrowd the lights and make it seem like you're in the middle of a flashbang. Now next is using lighting to highlight parts of your build. Take the forest build for example. We have mostly low light levels for most of the light sources, but this main one on the boulder in the pond lets us draw focus to this area in specific. You can use tricks like these if you want people to focus their eyes on part of your build, and use weaker or no lights to obscure either parts you don't like or aren't as important to the build overall. Knowing whether to use any lights at all is also a good skill to learn. Sometimes the only reason to light an area is to stop mobs from spawning, so try the weaker lights in strategic places to minimize light but maximize safety. Now, build style isn't the only reason to change your lighting choices. The biome or area around your build can also be a good indicator as to what light you should use. For example, in a snowy area, the soul lights, sea lanterns, and end rods keep that cool lighting. Maybe throw in the occasional warm light like a regular campfire for a bit of contrast. In a desert area, torches, campfires, and candles work well because it helps keep that dry, hot vibe you get from the sandy landscape. In a jungle area, try some of the more natural lighting blocks like the glowberries, glow lichen, and maybe hide some shroom lights around in the foliage. In the nether, it's pretty obvious to use light sources you find in that dimension, like lava, shroom lights, or magma blocks. This can change if you have a build like the Bastion, because the dark block palette works well with the cool lighting of the soul lantern, soul campfire, soul fire, and soul torches. And finally, in a swampy area, frog lights, lanterns, and candles work well at lighting things, but keeping that dark, spooky vibe. Now, go and light your builds, and let me know of any cool tricks you know of.